Time for Better Biking. Peter is here from We Bike and Trooper Larson from the Wisconsin State Patrol. Thanks so much for being with us. We are talking a very, very important point this week. We're talking law enforcement, bike safety, all that good stuff. You and Tracy were doing some big stuff this week. Tell us about the classes you were holding.
Yeah, so enforcement is one of the key components to helping us make walking and biking and all traffic safer, along with engineering and education. We want to build good facilities so it's safe for people to ride. We need to teach them how to use it, but the problem is if they don't use it properly, it can be dangerous, and that's where law enforcement comes in.
Yes, absolutely. And we were talking before, it's not just the bikers who need to know the laws.
No, it's everybody. If we can get either the pedestrian, bicyclist, or the motorist to get it right, we don't have a crash. So the last couple of days, I was over at the Green Bay Police Department, and I was teaching a class for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and it's called Pedestrian and Bicycle Law Enforcement Training. And what we do is we train police officers in which laws to enforce to reduce the most common types of crashes.
What would you say the most common type of crash is?
So there's a little bit of everything, but for motorists, one of the things that we make a mistake on is when we turn left, we tend not to look for pedestrians and bicyclists. We look too quick, we see cars, but it's the most vulnerable ones that we don't take account for.
Oh, gotcha. And lots of, I mean, we're seeing so many people out on the roads biking with the weather getting warmer.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the perfect time for all of us that walk and bike and drive to pay more attention, but it's also time for those folks that are charged with maybe helping us remember to do that, to pay attention as well.
Absolutely. And Trooper Larson, you can talk about this. How important is this biking safety kind of initiative for, you know, troopers as well?
Very important. As a trooper, we're always out there doing traffic laws. We primarily enforce speeding, and also we look for impaired drivers because we know that those types of violations lead towards these kind of crashes with pedestrians and bicyclists. And we know that if you're going 5 or 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit, it may seem insignificant, but for a crash involving a pedestrian or bicyclist, that 5 or 10 miles per hour is going to make a difference on the severity of injury for that pedestrian or bicyclist.
Absolutely. What would you say, or who would you say maybe is most vulnerable to crashes? You know, what types of situations?
Well, the first thing is obviously if you're a pedestrian or a bicyclist, you're not protected by a car, by a seatbelt, by an airbag. But even among pedestrians and bicyclists, it tends to be the children and the elderly and the disabled because they may have physical limitations that make it a little bit harder. As adults, we kind of anticipate the mistakes that motorists might make, but for kids, they don't have that experience. So it's our responsibility when we're driving to be extra careful and watch out for them.
And we know too, as drivers, we know what mistakes the drivers are also going to make. Children don't know those.
Exactly. And there are other efforts through the education that we work on training them. But I always say to folks, you know, it's normal for children to make mistakes. That's how they learn. So we as adults need to make sure that if they make a mistake, that we're watching for it and it doesn't become a problem.
And Trooper, what would you say to people who are out there watching, who are thinking about getting out there on the bike? You know, any safety tips or things that you want to remind people?
Just make sure you stop at stop signs, look left, right, left. Just make sure you know about your surroundings and just kind of slow down and be aware of what's going around.
You know, one second or third glance could make all the difference, right?
Yep.
Sure. We get lazy, we get complacent.
Sure.
Typically, if we're making a right turn in a car, the only threat for us is from our left. But we're all taught to look left, right, left, and it's that left, right, left that's going to help you pick up the pedestrian crossing the street on the sidewalk, or the bicyclist that might have made a mistake and they were riding the wrong way. If we don't take that extra time and really look around, we're just not going to see them. And the neat thing about the law enforcement, they're there to help us remember to do it correctly.
Absolutely. You guys are doing awesome. Thanks so much for being with us. For more information about bike safety and better biking, just head to our website.